Hi guys, I want to talk to you guys about something that is not a book, but on this channel I would like to, because I love movies and TV shows as much as I love books, I like talking about movies and TV shows just as much on this channel. And I've already started a little bit with my character discussion videos, where I've talked about a few characters that aren't in books, although some of them have been they have made book adaptations of storylines. Like, I think there are, the first male character I talked about was Data, and I think there are Star Trek books. I mean, I could be getting them mixed up with Star Wars, but I do believe I've seen Star Trek books, like, online and stuff. And then there's a Buffy graphic novel series by Dark Horse, and that is also, I consider graphic novels books, although the funny thing is I used to not consider them books, because they're, and forgive me, but I used to think it was like cheating, because it was just, it wasn't like all the detailed words and stuff. It was just, but in one of my English classes in college, we studied a graphic novel. So I've since kind of changed my mind and learned to revise that opinion. So the movie I want to talk about, although it's been a script format, so technically that's kind of like a book, except for it's like a book that's been like taken out. You take out all the description, and then you just, focus more on the dialogue and you describe a little bit of the character's actions, but the actor has to show it instead of like, it being described to you. And that is one of my all-time favorite musicals, Sound and Music, by Rodgers and Hammersteins. The same guys who did Cinderella, and they did a lot of other musicals that I haven't seen all of them. I'm only familiar with Cinderella and Sound and Music. I'm sure there are plenty of others that I'm familiar with. I think they were the same guys who did like Carousel, maybe? I had that soundtrack for a while, but I didn't listen to it, and I also ended up giving it away. I mean, it was good, it was kind of fun, but it just wasn't. But Sound and Music, I don't know what it is, but I can watch that movie over and over again, which I have been doing. Like, I will go through periods where I will watch the movie over and over again, and my family will constantly tease me about it if I reveal that I've been doing that. Like, I made the mistake of telling my dad that I have the urge to watch Sound of Music, because I thought, so I might be watching it while you're out. I thought my Blu-ray player in my room was broken, so I thought I had to watch in the living room Blu-ray player if I want to watch movies. Then it turns out that I think I was just really impatient, because I found out the other night that it actually is perfectly fine. Or maybe just needed a break from me using it and watching Sound of Music over and over again. But I made the mistake of telling my dad that, and he has teased me a lot about it, and they jokingly say they think there's something wrong with me. Although sometimes I think they're somewhat serious about that, because they don't understand how I can watch a movie over and over again. Although I think if we had the movie A Few Good Men on DVD, then possibly my dad could watch that over and over again, because he can recite that movie just as I can recite Sound of Music. But I'm sure everybody is familiar with that musical, but in case you're not, Sound of Music is about this woman, Maria, who is trained to become a nun, but she's very free-spirited. She loves to sing constantly, and yeah, you can sing, the nuns will sing, but only, you can't, when you're a postulant, you can't sing when you're in the abbey. The only time you can sing is if you are, when the nuns are singing when they're supposed to sing. So, and she's been getting into a lot of trouble. She's always late for everything. She likes to goof around, she likes to have fun. She's not a proper nun. So Mother Abbess decides, she sees that Maria is just a young girl, and that she needs to spread her wings a little bit. She needs to see what is out there in the world, because she's lived in this abbey her whole life. Now, we don't get much background on her. We just know that she has watched them, her whole life. One day she was seeing them over the Abbey Wall and heard them sing and was inspired to become one of them. And she joined them. So Mother Abbess, like I said, she senses that Maria, maybe she needs to explore the world a little bit. She needs to spread her wings. She needs to just see if she's ready to live the kind of humble lifestyle of a nun. So Mother Abbess sends Maria to become a governess for a Navy captain. And this is during, it's like 1938 or 39. Like the beginning of the movie says the last golden days of the 30s or something. So it's right before the Nazis take over, because if you know your history, the Nazi party took over Poland and Austria first. So it's right before that event. So Mother Abbess tells her this, signs her up to become a governess for this Navy captain who has he's a widow with 7 children, and he's had a lot of trouble keeping governesses there, and it's hard to be a single, and as you know, it's very hard to be a single parent, and he's also, a lot of times, I feel like fathers have a struggle a lot more with raising kids than mothers do, because I think women are just naturally nurturing. So she goes to this family, and confidently she goes to see this family, and right away she discovers that the captain he's good at disciplining the kids. He's very good at being hard. He's very hard on them. He makes them, during the summer, he pushes them to do chores and march around the grounds. They wear uniforms, and they just don't have any fun. And so right away Maria sees this, and she's like, she does not like what she sees. She does not like how he treats his kids. And, after, like, the kids try to find ways to get rid of her by, like, pulling pranks on her, like, they put a toad in her pocket. When she expresses to them she's never been a governess before, they tell her they give her advice, like, how she should tell their father to mind his own business. She should never come to meals on time. She should, all these little things that she could do that would probably annoy their father. But, and Maria realizes really the kids just want attention. They want their father to pay attention to them, and they don't want a governess to take care of them. They just want their father. So she realizes that they're just asking for attention, and she starts to slowly win them over, and she starts bonding with them. And when their father goes away to Vienna to meet his girlfriend, she makes them clothes out of the curtains that were replaced in her room. She teaches them how to sing for their father's girlfriend. And she just takes them all around Austria and just gives them the kind of fun they deserve. But then, of course, their father comes back, and he is not happy. He is not happy because Maria has not followed his command. She's not done what he asked her to do, to make the kids to do chores and not to, quote unquote, dream away their summer holidays. And they have been roaming around Salzburg in, another quote, in nothing but some old drapes. And they make us really, in their father's eyes, they make a bad impression on the Baroness, their father's girlfriend. So there is this big, when the captain confronts her about it, they start fighting. She starts telling him, your oldest daughter is 16, so one day you're going to realize that you're going to wake up and see that she's a woman, you'll barely know her, your son Friedrich wants to be a man like you and follow your example, but you're not giving him a good example. Tells him all these things about his kids that he never notices, and of course he gets pissed off, and he's like, don't tell me how to raise my kids. You don't, and you're being disrespectful, and she technically was, but because he was her employer. So she gets fired. But then he hears his kids singing to the Baroness this beautiful song, and he's immediately entranced by it, and he realizes, and then he has this moment of clarity where he realizes all these things that he has forgotten, all these things that he's lost and that he's given up, and he finally starts to reconnect and see his children that they need his love and affection, not just discipline. And he invites Maria to stay. He's like, you're not, not fired anymore. And then, unfortunately, once that happens and he opens up his heart again, he starts to see Maria in a new light. Not just as someone that can connect with his kids, but he sees her as a beautiful woman who's talented and compassionate and kind, and he starts to like her. Unfortunately, he's also engaged to the Baroness. And, okay, so that's the plot. I don't want to give anything away, but, if you, by chance, you haven't seen this, those of you who are watching this, but it's basically, so also you have the subplot of there's the looming threat of the Nazis are going to taking over Austria, so there's that whole subplot. So it has music, political intrigue, romance, it's a story about love, and it's a story about hope. And it's just an amazing musical, and it's one of my all-time favorites. I mean, like I said, the fact that I can watch it over and over again is, definitely proves it. But I love this musical. And, Julie Andrews is in it. I mean, if you've only seen her as Queen Clarice Rinaldi in Princess Diaries, then you're missing out, because that woman, before she lost her voice, because sadly, during an operation, she lost her voice. Like, I think they said it like in 1992. It's heartbreaking to know, because she had such a magical voice, and she could hit really high notes. And this is also the same actress who played in Mary Poppins. And she's done a lot of, she did the play Victor and Victoria, that I've never seen that one, and I definitely would like to see more of her work. And the same thing with Christopher Plummer, who's the guy who plays the captain, who is an amazing actor. And currently, he's the same guy who's playing in The Man Who Invented Christmas. He's playing Scrooge. And he also replaced Kevin Spacey. I can't remember what the movie's called. It just came out. It looks like it's about, he plays this man who's, I think he's a political figure, and his son got into a scandal or whatever. And he's, basically disowned his son. I mean, that's what it looks like from the trailer. But it's not necessarily a movie I would probably see. If my dad was still on that program where, whereas in that club where you get movies for free that they want you to give an opinion on and rate for, the awards, the Oscars and stuff, then that would probably be one of the movies we would get in the mail. But since we moved, we're no longer on that mailing list. So, but that probably would have been one of those movies that would come in the mail for us. Let's see, and he's done a lot of stuff too. He was in one of the stage productions of Julius Caesar, and the only reason now I know that one is because we read the script in one of my sophomore English class, and I saw the picture, and how in those big huge anthologies they have pictures in there from stage shows and stuff. It's a play, or pictures from the movie. Well, there was pictures from the stage show with him and Edward Herrmann as the characters. But anyway, but it's hard to explain exactly what I love and why I can watch this. I can recite the movie in my head, and I can replay a lot of my favorite scenes. And I will, when I'm laying in bed, if I'm going through that phase where I'm watching over again while I'm laying in bed, I will replay it. Last night, I was replaying in my head one of my favorite, the little love scene. Which, that's one of the things that's great about it, is it doesn't have, the romance in it is not, it's not so over the top with, the sex and the naughty, all the gropiness and stuff. It's just more subtle. Like, Maria and the captain like you said, they fall in love. And there's a scene where they dance, this famous Austrian folk dance. And there's no groping, there's no rubbing up against each other. There's the subtle hand holding, and reaching for each other's hands and just twirling around, dancing with each other. But it's not that, that dance, those two, where the groping and all that kind of stuff. And it's still incredibly sexy. And you can see the love and desire they have for each other in their eyes as they're dancing. And the captain is the kind of man that I think girls would dream about. He's not he doesn't act possessive of either his fiancée or Maria. He's not controlling. He's honorable. He can dance. He can sing. He's a very loving father, despite the fact that he's not very good at showing it in the beginning. You can see that he really loves his kids. And he's honorable, he doesn't cheat, even though he's developing these feelings for Maria, he doesn't cheat on the Baroness. He stays loyal to her, and even is all set to marry her when Maria leaves. But then all of a sudden, because Maria does leave when the Baroness points out that she can see that Maria's falling in love with the captain, and that he's fallen in love with her. She runs away back to the Abbey to hide because, it freaks her out because she's this young woman who has never had any experience in this department. She hasn't been around a lot of male figures, except for, the priests and the monks or whatever that already live in the Abbey, and maybe in a lot of the employees, like gardeners and stuff that work in the Abbey. But she's never been around a man in that capacity before. I mean, the captain's probably the first man that she's probably been around, and there's been a suggestion of attraction there. And he's also an experienced man in that because he's a widower, so he's been married before. Sorry. I always get a tick on my throat when I'm talking a lot. So she's this young woman, so she runs away. And, like I said, the captain's all set to marry the Baroness, but then, after the kids go to see Maria because they miss her so much and are heartbroken that she left without saying goodbye, she just left them a note and tell them that she had to leave and that she's sorry. They go to see her after they've learned their father is going to marry the Baroness. They decide they need to go see Maria and talk to her and maybe convince her to come back, or at least find out why she left. So, after they shove the other nuns, Mother Abbess decides to go talk to Maria. She's, find out what's up, why did she leave, did they send her away, what's going on? So because Maria is, unhappy, she's happy to be home, but she's also unhappy, because clearly she misses the kids, and she's probably still confused and dealing with her feelings that she's beginning to develop for the captain, that she feels like she shouldn't have. And the Mother Abbess convinced her, you need to go back and deal with this problem. You can't run away from your problems. You have to face them. You have to find out, could something come from this? Is the Baroness right? Does this man love you like you love him? Could something happen? So she returns. So she does end up returning because she misses the children, and she, realized that Mother Abbess is right, so she needs to figure things out. And the captain, when he sees, when he sees her again, he realizes, he finally admits that to himself, I think he finally realizes that he is in love with this woman, and he decides to call off his engagement. And now, see, this is, I see this storyline constantly, maybe different versions of it, but the whole idea of, the rich man hiring the governess to take care of his children, because he can't do it himself, because, for one reason or another, and then he, even though he's engaged to another woman, he starts to fall in love with the governess. or the nanny or whatever. So I see that trope all the time. And normally, in most cases, the woman, the fiance, is a total bitch. And yes, the Baroness, if you've seen the movie, the Baroness does confront Maria about it. She doesn't directly tell her, I know you are checking out my man, and I don't like it. She does it in a very sneaky kind of way. She preys on Maria's vulnerabilities and her insecurities, and points out to her, I can see that you are falling in love with this man, and that he thinks he's in love with you. That's what she said. She says that the captain thinks he's in love with her, and that there's nothing more irresistible to a man than a woman who's in love with him. So that basically scares off Maria. So she does, at first, she seems like a total bitch. But then, when the captain, Maria returns and everything, and and then the captain's like, no, I can't do this. Even though she makes one last effort to hold on to him, and then he finally stops her. He's like, no, I can't do this. I'm being unfair to you. I don't love you the same way anymore. And the Baroness actually is like, you know what? Don't say another word. I get it. You're right. It's just not working for us. And she comes up with all these excuses. She comes up with, that he's more independent than she needs, and she needs someone who needs her. And she even says, right before she leaves, she's like, and somewhere out there's a young lady who I think will never be a nun. So basically saying, I know that you're in love with Maria and that she's in love with you, so you need to go get her. You need to win her. You need to go. And she walks away. So, and I think what helps is that she's not a gold digger. Like, she loves money. She likes having money, but she's not marrying him just for the sake of, because she doesn't need to. She has plenty of money. Even Max states when their friend Max comes with them when he brings the Baroness to meet the children. And he's like their uncle. He's the kid's Uncle Max. I don't know if he's actually the captain's brother or his one. I think he's just a good friend. And he says to the Baron, he's asking her, he's prying into the Baron, prying and stuff, and asking her, so have you made up Georg's mind? That's his name, Georg. I think it might be Greg in American. I don't know. He's asked, are you guys gonna get married or not? And she's, telling him that, well, there's a possibility. I think I was brought here to meet the children. I'm brought here to get their approval and everything. And they start talking about he wants them to get married because he wants them, and he's like, she's like, well, he's no ordinary man. And Max says, well, he's rich. And she points out, well, when his wife died, she left him with a terrible heartache. And Max jokingly says, and when your husband died, he left you with a terrible fortune. So she's pretty fortunate enough. She doesn't need to be a gold digger. I think she genuinely loved the captain and was, genuinely cared about him. And I think that's the difference in those other stories. And I feel like those women usually don't generally care about the guy. They just want him because, it means title and money and all that stuff. And so that's what, so she's in those kind of, she's one of the few times, one of the only times in a story like this where I actually am cool with the other woman, with the actual fiance. So, another thing I love, besides the fact it's a musical, I love musicals. I am such a musical nerd, I'm not kidding. And I can memorize the songs really easily, I'm constantly singing them, not just Disney songs, but songs from other shows and stuff, other musicals. But what I love is that Maria is so sassy. I mean, she's sweet and kind-hearted and stuff, but she is so sassy. Like, when she first meets the children, there's a scene where, the captain, she first meets the captain. Actually, when she first meets him, she mistakes the butler for the captain because she has a different idea on what a captain is supposed to look like, and he does not look like, I mean, if you know what Christopher Plummer looks like, you see him as a young man, that man is fine looking, for, like, and even as an older man, as an old man, he's still good, he's still fine looking, he's still a silver fox, but, and actually the first thing she says to him, like, after she makes the mistake of expecting the butler who has a mustache, he's gray-haired, he's kind of short, he's kind of what she expects a captain to look like, a Navy captain to look like, a little grizzled, but right away, as soon as, she's nosing around the house, nosing around the captain's house, and she comes into the ballroom, and starts messing around, like bowing to the images and on the wall, because there's these murals all over the wall. It's really pretty, actually. Right away, and then the captain catches her in there, and he has this really commanding, intimidating, scary presence about him that is, it unnerves you, but at the same time, he is, like I said, he's a fine gentleman. He is a fox. And she right away realizes, okay, this is the actual captain. And her eyes are all wide and staring. She's all like, and then she's staring. I guess I don't know how to describe how she looks at him, but she's looking at him all curious, like, and like a little surprised. And the first thing, when he's asked her, "Why do you stare at me that way?" and she says, "Well, you don't look at all like a sea captain, sir." That's the first thing she says to him. And then he says, "Well, you don't look at all like a governess." So right away you can tell that you can see what kind of relationship we're going to have here. It's my favorite kind of relationship when there's friction at first between the couple. And it's always so funny to watch. So, and he says, like, she has this gray plain dress that she's wearing, a dress that the poor didn't want, and he even says it's ugly, and and even is insisting that she change her clothes, and she needs to put on another dress before she meets the kids, but it's the only dress she has at the moment. But I have to say, I agree with them that the dress is ugly and needs to be burned. Although I'm wondering if Julie Andrews kept that dress, just for the sake of nostalgia reasons. So when she meets the kids, first before she meets them, he gives her all the rules, all the things that she needs to do, make sure his kids don't dream away their summer holidays. They explain that they wear uniforms and that they need to march about the grounds, and stuff like that. And he's like, "I'm placing you in command." She says, "Yes, sir." And then she's essentially salutes him, and then he's like, and he gives her this look like, "Excuse me." And then he whistles. He has this whistle. That's how he, gets people, command, order, summons people. That he whistles. And then he whistles for the children, and they come marching in. They come, and Maria is completely shocked. And like I said, she did not like what she saw. She did not like how he was whistling for his kids, how they have to march, and they have to wear the uniforms and stuff. And what's really cute is that as they come marching in, she is mentally counting them as they come to see if there really are 7 kids. And actually, it looks like there's only 6 at that point, but that's because Birgitta, his 10-year-old daughter, was off somewhere else reading a book. So she's my kind of girl. She's, that she can get lost in a book. Unfortunately, because she got in trouble for that, and her dad, she had to give him the book, and he smacked her with the book, which that would probably sting a little bit, because that book was, I don't think there are probably worse things than, at least it wasn't a belt or anything like that, but, still, that can sting. And, she basically, and so he does, what he does is he gives them each a different type of whistle, and that is what summons them to introduce themselves. And then he's like, he offers it to Maria and is like, well, let's see how well you listen. And she says, well, no, they have beautiful names. I don't need to whistle for them. So, another burn, And then, at first she's like, okay, when he's like, well, there are large, extensive grounds. I don't want anyone shouting. So he, she reluctantly accepts the whistle, and, he's like, the kids will help you. And of course, I'm thinking, yeah, right, the kids are not going to help her. They're going to use that to their advantage and make her look bad. And then he says, now when I want you, this is what you will hear. And he does a whistle, and she's like, no, oh my God, no, I'm sorry, sir, but I will not answer to a whistle. Whistles are for dogs and cats and other animals, but not for me, and definitely not for kids. And she's like, it will be too humiliating. And he's like, ask her, were you this much trouble at the Abbey? And she's like, and she admitted, oh no, much more trouble than that. And then, like, he's getting ready to walk, as he's walking away, she takes the whistle he gave her and blows into it to get his attention, and then she's like, I'm sorry, sir, I don't know you didn't tell me your signal. And that is so funny. And then, like, there's another scene where it's around dinner time, and she is actually late for dinner, and something that she's never done before, but she ends up being late. And, like, she comes in, and she almost, in fact, and apparently the kids put a pine cone on her chair, which you find out later that he did know about. I mean, I guess he was so used to their little pranks that he just ignores them or dismisses them and is in denial because he doesn't want to, and maybe that's a way of showing that he loves his kids. So he doesn't want to, he wants to blame the governesses, because even in that beginning scene when Maria first meets them, she asks, when he's telling her about how all these governesses have come to watch his children, but they never stayed. Like, the last one only stayed 2 hours at the most. And, she's like, well, wait, what's wrong with the children, sir? And he says, there's nothing wrong with the children. Only the governesses. So I think he's a little in denial about his precious little angels. So she freaks out. She, is all surprised because, of course, it's a pine cone. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna, poke you in the butt. And she comes up with a, excuse and everything, and then, like, before she's about ready to, start eating, she's like, I'm sorry, Captain, but haven't we forgot to thank the Lord? And she does the prayer and stuff, which I imagine now, in the present, like, after the events of this movie, I'm sure they pray every night because they're mom. Because, spoiler alert, she and the captain do get married. And this is actually based on a true story, except for the fact that Hollywood did take some liberties. Like, the captain was, in real life, the captain's more jovial and not as disciplined, and Maria's the one who's disciplined and very stern. But they took some liberties to make it fit Hollywood mold. So basically, and then you find out in the beginning, you see in the beginning, I mean, after she meets the kids and has talked to them, and she finds out some more about them, because when their dad leaves, she asks them more, she asks about them, like, giving their names and how old they are and stuff, just to get to know them better. And I could actually recite that whole part. That is one of the scenes I can do. I can recite I remember what each kid said. And every time I watch the movie, I basically repeat all the dialogue as the movie's going on. I know I'm a wacko, to quote Rosie O'Donnell, because I know that she's a huge fan of the movie. And during, like, the 40th anniversary re-release of the movie, I remember she interviewed Christopher Plummer and Julie Andrews, and they have some really funny stories. And she was like, she talked about how she could watch the movie over and over again, and she could recite the movie, and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I know you guys probably think I'm a wacko. And I was just thinking, oh, I'm the same way, believe me, Rosie. I'm the exact same way. So after that, so right when she's like, the housekeeper is taking her up to her room, and then she discovers there's a toad in her pocket. So at dinner time, she basically is like, "I'd like to thank you guys for the precious gift you left in my pocket earlier today," and like the captain is like, "Wait, what gift?" And she says, she looks at the kids, and she's like, "Well, oh, I'm sorry, Captain, that's meant to be a secret between me and the children." And he says, and while I'm paraphrasing the dialogue, I'm hearing the whole actual dialogue in my head, by the way. And he says, "Well, why don't you keep it and let us eat?" And then she basically continues talking the whole time, and like talking about how she felt so welcome here, and she was so flattered by their, and how special it is, and how she really appreciates how they treated her and everything. And basically the whole time she's guilt tripping these kids. And because she keeps talking, the captain and his kids are having a hard time taking a bite because she's still talking, and they're used to a silent meal where no one is talking. So this is very new to them, and she just won't shut up, essentially. And all the little ones, the younger ones start, because they start feeling bad, they start crying, and the older kids are like sitting there awkwardly, being like, "Oh crap! Like, great, what do we do now?" And the captain, is like, basically is like, is this, he realizes kids are crying and is all exasperated because these kids are crying. His little ones are just crying, and he's like, "Okay, is this gonna be a routine? Are you gonna lead us, in this world of indigestion?" Something like that. Like I said, I probably do know the line, I just don't, and I'm trying to paraphrase it anyway. Okay, I just realized this video, I might have to cut this video short. I really hope I can upload it. And so basically she, and she's like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with the captain. There's nothing wrong with the kids. They're just happy, because they're crying and everything." And then another thing, like, I love that scene, and she, and what I like about her is she notices, like, Liesel, like, the captain receives a telegram from, an errand boy who turns out to be Rolf, Liesel's secret boyfriend. And Maria notices that Liesel just asked her father to sneak away, and her father's totally ignored it. He's like, yeah, go ahead. And she basically sneaks off to meet him, and there's this whole they meet at this gazebo, where there's this little cute little moment where there's, he's talking about how even though she's a year younger than him, that she's supposedly more immature than him, and she needs someone to tell her what to do and stuff. And it's a cute little number. It's 16 going on 17. It's one of the famous numbers. I mean, all the songs are pretty famous. And it's very cute. And actually, I learned behind the scenes fact that Charmian Carr, who plays Liesel, broke her ankle in that scene. But she was a trooper, and she kept going. And I also know that she was only 20. She was 21, not 16, not even 18. She was 21 at the time. And she also was a 21-year-old who had a crush on Christopher Plummer. So that was funny. And people say that supposedly, Christopher Plummer and Charmian Carr almost had an affair, but I don't know. I don't want to believe that. So who knows? I mean, I do believe he was a little bit of a grouch during the movie. That I do believe. And I think he definitely needs to get his head out of his ass. But I think things have changed. I know that now that he's older, and it's years later, he's apologized for it. And just, I love that. And I love how she talks. She totally is not afraid to challenge him. She totally talks back to him. She's sassing him all the time. And then when he's like, and she basically, and there's that scene when he comes back from Vienna and is like, and she calls him out on his behavior. She's like, "You need to stop neglecting your kids. You can't just discipline. You can't just ignore them. You have to pay attention to them. Your kids are growing up. And you're going to one day turn around and they're not going to be there anymore. And they're not going to want and to quote And actually, it reminds me of, there's a scene in the movie Hook. It's about Peter Pan all grown up. Like, what would happen if he grew up and had his own kids? And he's just a really, again, he's is a bad father and everything, and neglects these kids. And there's a talk between him and his wife, who's Wendy's granddaughter. And she says, basically to sum it up, she says, one day you're going to turn around and they're going to be grown up and they're not going to want you anymore. They're not going to want your attention anymore. And that's what Marie's probably trying to warn him, that one day his kids are not going to want him anymore and he's going to regret it. And right after they have that argument and he fires her, then he finally, he hears his kids sing and realizes what he's neglected, and he realizes that he's running out of time. So he starts trying to reconnect with them again. And this movie is just, it's so funny, it's so amazing, and and the acting is brilliant. Like, there's one scene where the kids have just put on a little performance with puppets, which is really cute and a really cool scene. Unfortunately, I found out that scene was added just for the movie. It's not actually in the stage show. But because I guess it's kind of hard because they're dealing with puppets and stuff. So when you're in an audience of a theater, unless it's a movie like a stage theater, then certain things like that, you're not going to be able to see that well. So it's kind of a hard scene to portray on stage. So after that scene, they decide that their dad needs to be the one to perform, that he needs to be really good. So they get him to play this Austrian folk song, which incidentally is not an actual Austrian folk song, but it, I think they say that it sounds like, I think the real Maria von Trapp in an interview with Julie Andrews had said that it sounded like one. It actually did sound kind of like one, even though it wasn't one. It's called Edelweiss, and it's, I think the song, the metaphor is this flower, this beautiful flower, so he starts singing the song, and he has this beautiful voice. And actually, sadly, Christopher Plummer's voice isn't ideal for the movie, so they had to dub his voice, which is really sad because he wasn't terrible. But of course, I'm not a judge of music and singers. But when I heard it, because someone had uploaded a video on YouTube with the song with him actually singing it, and it's okay, So, but it's probably understandable that they had to dub it. And Maria she hears him singing and sees him, sorry, I'm kind of tired, sees him playing, hears him singing, and you can see the way she looks at him, she's completely taken with him and completely smitten, and you can see she's falling for this man. And the Baroness, Max and the Baroness are there, and the Baroness, like, she's looking at the corner of her eye, she's watching Maria, looking at the cabin. You can see it in Maria's eyes that she is swooning over him. And you can see the Baroness being like, okay, what's going on here? Why are you looking at him like that? He's my man. And then Max briefly looks at the Baroness and is like, ooh, something's going on here. And then, so there's that. There's subtle gestures, there's eye contact, brief, eye contact. And then, like, you can see that, and then the captain, he looks at Maria twice during the song. He looks in the beginning at Maria in the song, and then at the end of the song. And the Baroness sees this. I mean, he does look at the Baroness once in the song, in the middle of the song, but he looks at Maria twice. And it's just subtle things, it's little acting things, and the acting is amazing. And there's, the whole scene where Maria and the captain have their first dance, the famous Austrian folk dance. You can just see the desire and chemistry between them. It's just sizzling off of them, and it's so beautiful. And you can just see it just by, like, just by their looks and their body language and everything, you definitely can see these two are falling in love with each other. But it's such a beautiful movie. And there is a little bit of a history lesson in the movie, a small bit. And then the music is amazing and beautiful. And it's an amazing movie. And it's so amazing. And I definitely would recommend it. Now, I mean, if you're not the kind of person who likes the happy, sentimental musical movies, then although the actors were very worried about this movie becoming very sappy and sentimental and saccharine, I believe that's the word that they use. So Christopher Plummer, he jokingly said someone needed to be the cynical one. So he was the cynic of the movie. And they made the movie more real. Like, the love duet between Marie and the captain, Something Good, it was a different song in the actual stage show. So they changed it to make it more romantic. So that was one of the changes they made. And like I said, they added this one song, The Lonely Goat Herder, which is the one with the song with the puppets, which is really good, and which is really a great scene too. And and Julie Andrews is in it. She has an amazing voice, and I am so sad that she lost her voice and lost her talent to sing. She can still sing, but it's just very low notes. And it's just, like, there's all this, there's a lot of, the actors have a lot of great stories. Like, there was one incident where the youngest Von Trapp, Gretel, she's 5 in the movie. I don't know if she's actually was 5 at the time of the filming of the movie, but there's a scene when they're on a rowboat, on the family's the lake on the grounds, and they're supposed to their dad had just come home from visiting with his girlfriend, and they all are excited and happy to see him, so they all stand up and everything in the boat, and of course, like, 8 people standing up in a boat, that's not smart. That boat is not it's not a good balancing act. So they all fall down, so they all fall into the lake, and during filming, Julie Andrews was pulled aside and they were asked her if she could flip the front ways instead, because the little one, Gretel, the one who plays Gretel, could not swim. Unfortunately, things never go as planned, and she fell backwards, and lucky for them, Heather Menzies, the one who plays Louisa, was able to catch little Gretel, Kim Carafe, the actor who plays Gretel. So that's one of the funny. And then like I said, there's the love song between the Captain Maria. And apparently the light that they had to light up the gazebo to make it like have this beautiful moonlight effect. That apparently those lights made these weird fart type noises, or raspberry type noises, and groaning noises like and of course it's supposed to be a love duet, and already it's awkward because the two of them, like Christopher Plummer and Julie Andrews, were like this, face to face, singing to each other really loudly, and it's supposed to be all romantic and stuff. And this is a lesson in that just because it looks romantic on screen when they're filming it does not mean it's actually romantic upon filming. And both of them were tired and hysterics the whole time and just having giggle fits, and they had to take a break. And that's why, to this day, that scene is done in silhouette, because the two of them couldn't stop laughing. And it's just, so those are a couple little fun facts about the movie. And another fun fact is that the kid who plays Friedrich, he's not a natural blonde, so they had to bleach blonde dye his hair, I feel bad for him because that caused blisters in his head. So like I said, those are a few fun facts about the movie. And I love this movie. It means so much to me. And like I said, if you haven't seen it and you don't mind sentimental musical types, then I definitely would recommend seeing it. It's amazing and beautiful and a really sweet story. And it's about hope, it's about love. You get a little bit of a history lesson. You get great music and wonderful acting, and it's amazing. And I really hope this video is not too long, because I don't want to redo this, but this is something I want to talk about and share with you guys. So, I hope you guys didn't mind my gushing about the Sound of Music, and if you didn't mind, then like the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, and you're just passing by, please subscribe. Alright, bye!